story in a world where supernatural creatures roamed the earth, the Vampire Council had always kept a tight leash on their kind. But now rumors were spreading that a powerful vampire was on the rise, one who craved not just power but domination over all creatures and humans alike. The council assembled a team of experienced hunters to track down and eliminate the threat. Leading the team was a veteran hunter, Jonathan, who had taken down more than his fair share of bloodsuckers in his time. As they delved deeper into the investigation, it became clear that this was no ordinary vampire. This one had powers beyond any they had ever seen before. Not only could it move at incredible speed, but it had the power to manipulate the minds of those around it, making it nearly impossible to track. The team spent weeks tracking down leads and following trails across the country, never quite able to get ahead of their quarry. It was as if the vampire knew they were coming and was always one step ahead of them. Finally, they received a tip from an unlikely source, a witch who had been a long-time adversary of the vampire. She had been able to locate the vampire's lair, hidden deep within an abandoned church on the outskirts of town. The team arrived at the church, armed to the teeth with their weapons of choice. They made their way through the dusty halls, tense with anticipation. Suddenly, they heard a low growling coming from the shadows. It was the vampire. The creature leapt at them, its speed and strength astonishing. Jonathan and the team fought back with all their might, but it was clear that they were outmatched. The vampire seemed to be toying with them, almost as if it enjoyed the thrill of the hunt. As the battle raged on, the team noticed something strange. The vampire seemed to be weaker than they had expected, almost as if it was holding back. They realized too late that this was all a trap designed to lure them into a false sense of security. With a sudden burst of power, the vampire revealed its true form, a towering behemoth with razor-sharp fangs and eyes that glowed like coals. The team had never seen anything like it before, and they knew that they were in trouble. One by one, the hunters fell, unable to withstand the power of the vampire. Jonathan was the last one standing, his heart pounding with fear. He knew that this was his last stand, that if he didn't defeat the vampire, it would go on to rule over all creatures and humans alike. Summoning all his strength, Jonathan lunged at the vampire, his silver blade glinting in the moonlight. The two clashed, sparks flying as the blades met. Jonathan fought with all his might, his muscles straining with effort. In the end, it was a close battle, but Jonathan emerged victorious. The vampire was defeated, and its reign of terror was over. As the team regrouped, Jonathan realized that they had been played. The vampire had never intended to win the battle. Its true goal had been to lure Jonathan into a false sense of security so that it could drain him of his power and take his place as the leader of the hunters. With a heavy heart, Jonathan knew that he could never let his guard down again. He had defeated one powerful vampire, but there were always more lurking in the shadows, waiting to strike. The world was a dangerous place, and it was up to him and the other hunters to protect it from the darkness that lurked within. Story in the dark, desolate corridors of a research facility. A team of dedicated researchers were investigating the effects of sleep deprivation on the human brain. Their goal was to gain a better understanding of the effects of prolonged wakefulness and to develop treatments for those who suffer from insomnia. As the study progressed, the team began to notice strange occurrences. Participants reported seeing shadows that weren't there, experiencing hallucinations, and even feeling a palpable sense of dread. Initially, the researchers dismissed these reports as the effects of sleep deprivation, but as the study continued, the incidents became more frequent and intense. One evening, while conducting a series of tests on a participant who had been awake for over 72 hours, the team noticed something peculiar. The participant suddenly began to scream and thrash about violently, as if in the grip of some invisible entity. As the team rushed to restrain him, they caught a glimpse of something that chilled them to the bone. Out of the corner of their eyes, they saw a flicker of movement. a shadowy figure darting past them in the dimly lit hallway. They turned to follow the figure, but it vanished into thin air. Shaken by what they had seen, the team decided to investigate further. Over the next few days, the team began to experience bizarre phenomena. They heard whispers and footsteps when no one was around. They saw dark shapes lurking in the corners of their vision, only to disappear when they turned to look. They began to realize that staying awake for too long had unlocked something dark and terrifying, a world that they could not explain. The team decided to take a break from the study, hoping that a change of scenery would help them clear their minds. But even outside the research facility, they could not escape the strange occurrences. They saw ghostly apparitions and heard phantom whispers. They were plagued by nightmares and felt a sense of unease that never seemed to leave them. As the team struggled to make sense of what was happening, they realized that they were not alone. Others who had participated in the study had also experienced similar phenomena. They began to fear that they had opened a door to something that they could not control. In a last-ditch effort to make sense of what was happening, the team decided to analyze the brainwaves of those who had experienced the most intense phenomena. As they sifted through the data, they discovered something shocking. The participants who had experienced the most intense phenomena had all exhibited a pattern of brain activity that was markedly different from those who had not. It seemed that staying awake for too long had altered their brain chemistry, unlocking something dark and terrifying within their minds. The team realized that they had stumbled upon something that they could not control or reverse. They had opened a door to a dark and terrifying world, and there was no going back. As the team struggled to come to terms with their discovery, they realized that they had a responsibility to warn others. They published their findings, hoping that others would learn from their mistakes and avoid the dangerous effects of sleep deprivation. But even as they did so, the team knew that they could never forget what they had seen. They had opened a door to a world that should never have been unlocked, and they could only hope that it would remain closed forever. Story: It was a beautiful sunny day when Ryan and Samantha decided to take a road trip through the countryside. They were both thrilled to explore new places and escape the city for a while. As they drove through winding roads, they noticed a sign that read "Shortcut to next town." Without much thought, they decided to take the shortcut and save some time. As they drove through the narrow and deserted road, they came across an old town. The buildings were all abandoned, and there were no signs of life. Ryan and Samantha were a bit spooked, but decided to explore the town anyway. They parked their car near the town square and started walking around. The town looked like it was stuck in time. Everything was old, and there were no modern amenities. The streetlights were flickering, and the wind was howling. Ryan and Samantha tried to shake off their unease and continued exploring. As they walked, they noticed something strange. They had not seen any people since they arrived, not even a single soul. It was as if the town was completely deserted. They called out, but no one answered. The eerie silence and the emptiness of the town were starting to give them the chills. Suddenly, they heard a whispering voice. It was faint, but it was there. They followed the sound and found themselves in front of an old church. The door creaked open, and a gust of wind blew past them. They felt something pulling them inside, and before they knew it, they were standing in front of a group of people. Ryan and Samantha were shocked and terrified. The group of people was unlike any they had ever seen. They were all pale and had a strange glow around them. Their eyes were sunken, and they looked like they had not slept in centuries. Ryan and Samantha realized with a sinking feeling that they were in the presence of ghosts. The ghosts started to surround them, and Ryan and Samantha tried to run, but they were too slow. The ghosts were too powerful, and they quickly overpowered them. The couple felt as if they were floating, and the ghosts seemed to be dragging them into a different dimension. Ryan and Samantha found themselves in a dark and misty world. The ghosts were all around them, and they realized that they had been trapped. The ghosts told them that they could never leave, and that they would be trapped there forever. The couple knew that they had to find a way to escape. They looked for a way out, but could not find any. They were lost in a maze of endless darkness, and the ghosts were closing in on them. Ryan and Samantha remembered that they had a flashlight in their backpack. They quickly found it and shone the light around the room. They noticed a faint glow in the distance, and they ran towards it. As they got closer, they realized that it was a portal. They hesitated for a moment, but then they took a leap of faith and jumped through it. Ryan and Samantha found themselves back in the town square. They looked around and realized that the town was now bustling with life. People were walking around and the shops were open. They got into their car and drove away as fast as they could. As they drove, they saw the old town fade away into the distance. They knew that they had escaped the clutches of the ghosts, and they felt a sense of relief. Ryan and Samantha never spoke of their terrifying experience again, but they knew that they had narrowly escaped a fate worse than death. They had learned a valuable lesson that day. Never take shortcuts through unknown territories.